Hey, welcome back to our special Why Donald Trump Will Win. Let's look at some numbers. Let's look at some data. Seth Keshel is here, election analytics expert, Captain K's Corner on the Substack. Seth, how are you, brother?
I'm doing all right, Mr. Slater. It's good to be on your show. And obviously, it's been a busy time for all of us getting ready for the run up to this election.
Well, it's game time now, and I'm feeling pretty good. I want to know if I should be feeling pretty good. I'm very grateful for a chart you made recently about Pennsylvania. Very encouraged by this out of Pennsylvania and how I've analyzed it, correct me if I'm wrong, that Republicans tend to overperform on average in Pennsylvania by about 600,000 votes. Is that an accurate assessment? And what does that mean for this election based on how many registrations there are?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this slide is it's not even including the change that was published this Monday, which now brings the Democrat registration advantage under 300,000. So it's just over 297,000. Wow. And as you can see by the chart, Pennsylvania always votes to the right of its Democrat voter registration advantage. Now, that number, the impact of it may be blunted as the state begins to realign itself. But Trump, on average, has gone 620,000 right of the registration advantage. And it was even 605,000 in 2020 in what I call a fortified election. So if Trump runs 605,000 right of the registration advantage again in 2024, he's going to carry Pennsylvania by more than 250,000 votes, which you're talking about 4-point margins like you've seen in some of these polls. So in my view, Pennsylvania is like a low grade version of 2016 Ohio, where it just becomes a blowout Republican state.
Now, what could happen is a lot of those Republican registrations were independents or Democrats in the previous elections, and now they just officially switched and will continue to vote the same as they always did. So there wouldn't be as much of a overperformance. Is that possible?
Yep, that is definitely a consideration. And a lot of those Western Pennsylvania counties that have been voting Republican for 2 decades, that growth the margin change has begun to slow a little bit, especially when it comes into population, where the counties are losing population thanks to the impact of those trade deals. So I think that for the most part, though, when you lay these changes out in the more populated counties out east, they absolutely correlate. So Northampton County, or going back west to Erie County, absolutely have all the makings of counties that are going to flip for Trump, including 2 very big working class counties, Monroe and Lackawanna counties, which are Democrat strongholds. I think both of those have a really good shot of going to Trump. So I think that with Philadelphia and the urban core likely to be substantially down for Democrats and only 4 counties moving to the left in the last 4 years, that Pennsylvania is Trump's to lose.
I would love nothing more than a blowout in Pennsylvania. Although I also want to blow out in Georgia because I want to prove that 2020 was this weird fluke in Georgia. So let's chat about that. Is Trump going to win Georgia?
Yeah. So Georgia right now is a graveyard for the Democrats. You can sort the county values at georgiavotes.com. And I look at that every morning. The top 32 counties as a share of their 2020 vote that's already cast are Trump won counties, and most of them by substantial margins. Then you've got the 33rd one as a Democrat won county. Then you go into another desert for the Democrats. So urban core Atlanta is not turning out at the rate that it was. And if you look at the values of who's voting, Black women are showing up to vote, but Black men are not. And among those who are showing up to vote, Trump's going to do a few ticks better anyway, even though the Democrats usually get a more loyal Black vote out of southern states. And when you look at the fact that mail-in voting is way down, total turnout looks like it's not going to be quite what it was in 2020. Trump definitely has an edge. One of the counties that I'm looking at to peg Georgia, since it doesn't have party registration, is Duval County in Florida, which is pretty much a mirror image of Georgia. Demographically, it's almost identical. It's urban, it's country, it's everything in between. And right now, the Republicans are about to take the lead in Duval County for total turnout, including mail-in early. And of course, Election Day will favor the GOP. Duval and Georgia swing in the same direction and have for 2 decades. So I'm confident that Georgia is looking very good for Donald Trump right now. And North Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania are the shortest path to 270.
Yes. I like your Duval County analysis. That's interesting. As we continue to analyze these early voting returns, because this is a new election in this sense that the Republicans are now playing this game and voting out early, how enthused should we be by early vote turnouts of Republicans? Meaning, is this just cannibalizing the election day vote that would have already happened anyway, and now we're just spreading it out early? Or do you think there'll still be a big surge on election day of Republicans too?
That is a big concern about people who are trying to peg turnout levels. Now, I tend to measure things a bit differently. The number of registered Republicans is basically the bench of how many Republican votes we're going to get, especially when we combine it with independent votes. So I do think that Trump has a great chance of going over 74 million votes. The Democrats have lost registrations in key places, especially as a result of voter roll purges like in Nevada, all over the place. So as far as cannibalization goes, most of the data suggests that the Democrat vote right now is heavily made up of their 4-4 voters, the ones that voted in each of the last 4 federal elections and who vote in their primaries. And the Republicans are succeeding more in turning out low propensity voters, those who don't regularly vote.
Yes.
That means that we can count on the 4-4s eventually showing up, and we do have those on election day. In fact, I'm an election day voter. But right now, it doesn't suggest that we're cannibalizing at a rate greater than the Democrats. And really, if you look at states like North Carolina, I saw a figure yesterday that suggests that they have 67,000 fewer black votes banked today than they had at the same date in 2020.
Wow. We've got about 3 minutes, and I want to ask you another broader question, but let's just knock out Michigan and Wisconsin.
All right, Michigan to me is a very problematic state. And the number one reason Michigan is a troublesome state is because 83% of their population is registered to vote. For those of you who may not know, only 77% of any state's population is over the age of 18. That comes out to 500,000 or 600,000 voters who have no business being on the rolls, and that's been a subject of conversation between Elon Musk and their Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson. But if Michigan runs with any sort of standard trajectory, Trump has wound up 53,000 votes left of Pennsylvania on average in Michigan. It was 33,000 in 2016 and 73,000 in 2020 with that bloated election. So Michigan sits about 50,000 left of PA. PA to me looks like a Trump win by several points, 200,000 or more. And that should also have gravity in Michigan, especially since there's so many non-white voters that are publicly switching sides and a higher number of white working class voters. But Michigan, of course, is a problematic place, like I mentioned, but I'm not sure that either Josh Shapiro or Gretchen Whitmer is going to be pulling for Harris, given that they're probably favorites for 2028.
Oh, interesting dynamic. We'll save that for another special, and maybe we should this one as well, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk about cheating. I'm very concerned about overseas ballots. UOCAVA, we've talked a lot about that. Citizens voting overseas, even though maybe you've never even lived in the United States of America. So that's my concern. What do you think about cheating in general and the RNC being on it or not?
Do I think they'll cheat? Well, is the Pope Catholic? I think that they'll make every effort to do so. One of the things that's in the way for them is that they don't have the volume of mail-in ballots out like they did in 2020, and the mail-in ballots that are out are substantially less Democrat by requests and returns, like in Pennsylvania, than they were in 2020. The in-person early vote has been a debacle for them. Florida has moved 13 points to the right from 48 hours ago. It was D+7 in the mail-ins, and now it's coming on R+6 within the next couple hours. So Florida, as Florida goes, so goes Michigan, so goes Pennsylvania, and so goes Georgia. So I think that you're seeing a preview of what the election is looking like. Out west, it's not any better. In Nevada, Republicans lead mail-in early voting, which is something never before seen. But of course, this came right after a Nevada voter roll purge, and of course, it only hurts one party when that happens. Arizona is in the middle of early voting. Republicans have a lead of almost 40,000 on the early vote. It normally gets redder from here. One point of concern is Maricopa County announcing that they're going to take 10 to 13 days to count the vote. Now, some of this is trauma from the 2020 and 2022 elections. But to me, it's just completely unacceptable to have one large county that controls 60% of the vote wait 10 to 13 days to certify results when 14 other counties push theirs in. So no matter what happens in the 2024 elections, if we don't clean up elections and the public perception of them, we are going to lose the constitutional republic.
It's got to be top priority when we win. Seth Keshel, the man to follow, election analytics expert, Captain K's Corner on the Substack, and this is the time to follow. Seth, appreciate all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Glad to be on.